Beth Ann.
What's up? I'm Ayla.
This is Let's Talk BL, a boys love podcast.
It's Sunday, Series Sunday, that day of the week where we talk all things one series and one series only. So if you have not seen the series, go watch the series or listen here first to find out if you should watch the series. Although, actually, we're not here to tell you what to do. I think you should watch every series. Or make decisions for yourself. You know.
I do too.
Despite what people say.
I'm always fascinated when people are like, oh, you make me want to go watch this series. Or I've heard people tell me, or I've like decided not to watch a series based on what other people have said, but you have leaned me towards maybe giving it a chance.
Yeah, I definitely listen. This is why I say give every series a chance if you feel like it, because
if you have time.
I have fallen victim to not watching a show because like I saw like feedback that I was like, oh, I don't think I'm gonna like this show, and then I went and watched the show and it was great and I loved it. So like, I don't know, go watch the show. I'm not here to tell you what to do, but potentially this will help you make your decisions. I don't know.
I know. I feel like this show is pretty well watched.
Yeah, I think most people watch this show, or at least watch part of this show.
Yeah.
Or at least know what the show is.
Do most people watch GMMTV shows? Like,
I don't know, to be honest. I don't know.
Unless it's Enchante.
Like, do you just... That's a good question. Put in the comments, do you watch just, like, every GMMTV show that drops? Just because, like, it's GMMTV, it's easy to access, it's on YouTube, people are always talking about those shows.
I'd love to know.
Or are you a little more choosy? A little more picky-choosy? I'm curious. I don't know.
Or are you just like that one ship GMMTV stan and you just watch that one ship show? And then, the rest you're like, meh, I'll watch other shows.
Clearly, we're talking about a GMMTV show. We are talking about Be My Favorite. This show had a journey. Truly a journey.
It absolutely did.
From the moment it got announced, I remember being
2022.
Shook. I was shook. I was like, oh my God, Krist has a new boy. Because this is... it's not even unheard of for GMMTV because of course Earth has been paired with many a man.
But it's a pillar.
A pillar
has never been
This is the first time that a pillar has had a new ship, which is fascinating.
We thought we saw the breakup at Love Out Loud, but they continued to do the ship work.
See, I maintain that was all contractual obligations because they haven't done any since.
No, they have not.
I feel like they were just working through their contractual obligations because at Love Out Loud 2 years ago, it's not the most recent one, but 2 years ago,
yes.
There was like emotional moment on stage, and I was like shook it. Like you could tell because I don't speak Thai, but you could tell that something was going on. Krist was crying, Singto was crying, everyone was solemn in the room. So I literally had like Google Translate open on my phone, and I was just like holding it up, like letting it do the like auto dictate thing, like trying to figure out what was going on. And the whole time I'm like looking at it, I'm like, I think they're breaking up. Beth Ann, I think they're breaking up. I think they're doing it in public in front of people. It was wild. Anyways, originally this show was supposed to be Krist and Mike.
Right.
And you in particular were very offended by this pairing because you felt gaslit. Although, and you weren't alone, a lot of people were like, they set us up for this in Safe House, But I was like, no freaking duh, you guys. Like, of course they're using Safe House to test popularity of couples.
Well, even before Safe House, Krist and Mike started being besties on the IG. And I was like, interesting, Krist and Mike. Because I was following Mike because, like, it had... The Top Tap had just...
R.I.P. pouring out for the loss. The ships that could have.
I know. And so, so then suddenly Mike and Krist started popping up, and then they were in Safe House, and I was like, oh, this is cute.
I know, you were very into them, and then you were so offended when it turned out it was for a show, and I was like, bro.
How dare. Because here's the interesting part about Krist, and we saw this, and we've heard it made mention, and if you are an international fan, and heaven forbid we talk about this, but... you know what you know about Krist. You come into BL world, and I feel like there are some highlights that you become aware of really early on.
Right.
If you are aware of any type of drama.
People have reputations.
Yes. And so for this kind of new generation, in the last year or so, I feel like Krist, especially on social media, the conversation has maintained. He's a homophobe. He, has said all these things, especially when he was doing SOTUS promotions.
And here's
all
the thing.
This stuff.
He has said all these things. And I came into BL and I heard his reputation, and I was always an outlier. Like, I always was like kind of a weird outlier where I was like, I was curious about it because I came into BL world and I heard all the drama. I heard the situation with Krist and all of that. And I was like, well, I want to see for myself. I'm curious about this because they were a pillar and they were so popular. And I was like,
because you watched the Chris Singto stuff and you were like, but Krist carries
yes.
that.
And the reason I watched it is because I was like, how can he be so popular if he has said these things and if he truly has this opinion, right? Like,
yeah.
I was like, how could this be? Like, I couldn't reconcile.
This is truly a lost in translation moment.
Well, I just couldn't reconcile. Like, I couldn't understand, like, how somebody with those opinions and those feelings and those thoughts could also be this other person. Like, I didn't understand. So I went and watched Chris Singto ship work. Mm-hmm. And I went and like watched like Krist stuff by himself. And I don't know that I would say it's lost in translation because he said what he said. And if you translate it, he said what he said. I think that it's I think that there are some like cultural implications that are lost. I think also I've never been a big proponent of like cancel culture. I think if somebody says something wrong or makes a mistake and then they're told why that's wrong, and why that's a mistake, and then they like apologize and like move forward from that, like isn't that the whole point of calling people on their BS?
Right.
But so like I think also there's this situation of like it's all been very bad, but like the particularly bad stuff from the beginning. He was super young. He was like really hitting like a very high level of fame.
Yeah.
He was getting sort of like bombarded with like there was just a lot going on, and also honestly, with the more recent more recent comments.
But we saw it with kind of all the pillars. All the pillars went through growing pains those first few years in different ways, right? Like you had Nui with the girlfriend, you had Krist, Singto, Nui with like a lot of the like kind of like inappropriate conversation around like rape culture basically,
right?
And then you had like Brightwin for whatever all their drama and scandals.
Bright has had many a scandal, although I stand by Bright. I'm a big Bright fan.
But yeah, so we had so many different types of scandals in those early days of the pillars,
right? And so like as somebody that I was always fascinated, like I feel like I weirdly know a lot about Krist and a lot about Chris Singto because I was just so curious. Like I didn't understand. I genuinely, like, from the time that I started watching Chris Singto ship work and I started watching Krist on his own, and I started just, like, because, again, I was, like, trying to get it. Like, I didn't get it.
Right.
I realized, and there's a really awesome, very respected person in the BL community, Dr. Thomas Baudinet, who has talked a lot about this, and, like, I highly recommend, like, go check out that Twitter feed and like read through some of that stuff because it explains it much better than I ever could. Mm-hmm. Krist actually always carried the Chris Singto ship. If you watch that ship work, like Krist is the one that was sort of like unabashedly afraid to be like a ship.
Yeah.
And like he also, if you go and watch like some Krist stuff separately on his own, like he's kind of always talked about LGBTQ, talked about the community, like he, and like in a positive light, like in a good light. And so like he has these one-off comments that have been made, and it's not, I feel like seen in the context of like the whole a lot of times. It's not to say he didn't make mistakes. It's not to say he didn't say bad things. He hasn't done bad things. Absolutely not to excuse any of that behavior. But I think that like it was very interesting for me when this show came out because I was like, I really am curious. I, from the beginning, was like, I want to talk to him. I was like, I want to interview him. I want to. And like, I came up with the question, if you watched our interview with Kristen Gawin, about like, I wouldn't say I was being sneaky, but I definitely, when we go into these interviews, we have to conduct ourselves in a way that, and like ask questions in such a way that quite frankly we'll be allowed to ask. Like, and not that anybody really polices our questions. No company really does, not even GMMTV. But you know, you have to be strategic about the way you ask things so that
You
it's
don't ever
not
want a
you don't
gotcha
want to
moment.
you don't want to gotcha them, and you don't
Yeah.
want to call them out.
And they do see the questions ahead of time. So
Right.
they do get to think about their answers.
But I did want to give him an opportunity
Yeah.
to like talk. And when I tell you, I was waiting for the question, like the whole interview, like we're building up to it, and I'm like, I knew it was coming. Everybody knew it was coming
Yeah.
in the questions. And I asked the question, and he pepped up immediately. Like he was so excited, and his answer was so good and
Yeah.
clearly well thought out. And he clearly like thought about it, and it was like a real moment for
and
him.
it didn't feel like fan service.
It didn't feel
It felt very
fake.
honest.
It didn't feel like. I really think that one of the great things that came out of Be My Favorite is that people gave Krist a chance.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that he should be given a chance. And I don't think he's a bad person. And I don't know if that's a hot take or not. But like,
I also-
genuinely, after meeting him and talking to him
Yeah.
and listening to his answer about being a part of BL and how BL has shaped and changed and grown and evolved, like hearing his answer to that question, like, and it wasn't fake. It wasn't edited. We didn't have to do multiple takes. Like that really was. And he was like, I'm going to speak into like, he was trying so hard to speak in English because of course he felt like that was the thing he wanted to do for international fans. But in that moment he was like, no, I want to say what I'm going to say, like what I'm here to say. So he said it in Thai. And like, I think it's good people have given Krist a chance, and I don't think he's a bad person, and I think that he deserves that chance.
Well, and the more you get to know Krist through all of the appearances that he's done, you can very much tell, especially early on, he was just like an unfiltered person who just kind of said what came off the top of his head. And when you see that in celebrity culture, when you see that in just like a person who becomes famous, it's tricky because you know people in your own life that like they say things and you just kind of roll your eyes and you're like, that's that person, like
Right.
they didn't mean that, like it was just what came to their head, because we all have those thoughts, right? Like every single one of us has had probably bad thoughts that we're like, we can filter and we're like, we should probably not say that out loud. But there are certain people that don't know how to do that, especially young people in a culture that was still learning and in a society that was still growing as it relates to a lot of this LGBTQ stuff. And so yeah, it was interesting to see the shift and like the conversation online. There were quite a few when I would go research to kind of see what the conversation was now about Krist. A lot of it was English speakers who were talking about how the stuff of the past was of the past and there wasn't a lot of new stuff that people had been talking about. They kept bringing up the old stuff, and that people were like, he's just, to your point, he had always been outspoken about the LGBTQ community. And I think you can be both. Like you can make weird crass jokes at whatever and then be like, but I do support this and I am a part of this, and it is a growing experience, I think, for everyone involved. And so yeah, it was curious to see the conversation. And he even admitted himself when they had their finale episode where he was like, I know what people think about me and I felt bad bringing Gawin into this, but like Gawin is perfect and everyone's gonna be like,
Yeah.
it covers all bad.
Yeah, I mean, I remember we were really scared to do that interview and release that
Yeah.
interview. Not scared, like we were always going to do it because, again,
Nervous.
I personally went into it being
Right.
like, I want to talk to him. I want to hear from him. I want to gauge, like, is he a bad person? Is he this person? Like, who is he, right? And so we were always going to do it and always going to release it. But there was like a little bit of nervousness of like, are people going to crucify us?
Are we guilty by association?
Are we guilty by association by like giving him a platform and giving him a chance to speak? And we did. That was a risk that we took. And genuinely, like,
Overwhelmingly positive.
I don't think he's a bad person. Like, I genuinely, I think
take.
people make mistakes.
Hot take, we got more hate comments off the Na Nun interview.
True.
Actually, we got 0 hate comments off of Chris Gawin.
No.
The only thing we got was the translator didn't translate enough for Chris.
Although, to clarify that, we went back and we checked and we had people listen to it, Thai speakers listen to it. Mark did translate exactly what Krist said in Thai many times. There are more words than English words correlate with it, right? So like they have to use more words. So the translation that Mark did in the interview was correct and it was complete. Like nothing got left out. Please don't worry.
And so, it is. Yeah. Anyways, it was interesting.
Yeah, I will say that I think the only feedback we got was that we didn't like applaud when he gave that answer. And sure, maybe we should have. It was a good answer. I remember just being like dumbfounded. Yeah. Like everyone in the room.
Even Gawin was like, what do I say?
Yeah, even Gawin was like, how do I follow this? Like all of us, everyone in the and even Mark, like you hear him say, he goes, okay, wow, I'm going to try and translate this. Like, because even Mark was like, okay, like everyone in that room stopped and like even like we had a photographer there who was taking pictures. Like he stopped for a minute too. He speaks Thai. Like he stopped for a minute too. Like everyone just kind of like had this moment of pause of like, oh wow.
It was a great answer. But yeah, the journey that we've had with Krist himself through this whole thing, and then I'll be interested to see what comes next. Do you think?
I'm curious.
Do you think they'll keep Krist and Gawin together?
I don't know.
I think Krist will go mainly into music.
I don't know. I think Krist will keep acting. I don't think they'll keep Krist and Gawin. I don't think they'll do another show. I don't. I think that Gawin is like, he's a one-off BL boy. I think he's like the ringer that they bring in. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see this being a multi-show pairing.
Yeah.
Okay,
let's get to the show because this show was a great show for these two to carry. So it is 12 episodes, GMMTV, which means it's on YouTube. The person who directed this also directed The Gifted Graduation and The Gifted and wrote all the Club Friday series.
The Club Fridays are very cool.
Which is why this I thought it had a very different feel than a typical GMMTV show. It was shot beautifully. It was overall, it felt very much in line with those like Club Friday shows.
Yeah.
Okay, it stars as Gawi, Boat Gawi, Krist, and Pisang as Gawin.
Yes, of course. Okay, synopsis time.
Yes.
Boat Gawi has forever been in love with Permai. His life has forever changed when a musical crystal ball he bought as an important gift for Permai transports him back in time to the age of 18. Everything turns upside down. Instead of fulfilling his hopes and setting things right with Permai, Boat Gawi somehow ends up in the arms of Pisang. Thus begins their cat and mouse games, with Pisang chasing after Boat Gawi. Old feelings for Permai, however, become a detriment to their blossoming romance. Enraged, Boat Gawi keeps twisting the crystal ball in an attempt to get his desired results.
That's a solid synopsis.
That's a really good synopsis. Yeah, this show, honestly, I really loved the show. I loved the energy of Gawi. Like, Gawi, I just feel like, was fantastic every step of the way. Like, talk about stubborn. I feel like he is the quintessential stubborn character of... And what was cool about him is it was never about, like, I'm not gay, which is what I thought it was going to be when we first got into it. Was like, I'm not gay. I refuse to be gay, right? Like,
the trailer very much makes it seem as though... It is that.
Yeah, it was more so that he was just so stuck on this idea that like the goal is Permai, the goal is Permai, the goal is Permai. And he was just like super annoyed that like he couldn't get Permai, right? More than anything else. And it wasn't about him being like, I'm not gay, I refuse to be gay for Pisang. It more so was that he was just like so... and I just thought it was funny. It was more funny than anything else. And I thought it was like kind of a cool way to do that, because of course he did have these moments of like faltering,
right,
where he's like has to really come to terms with himself that like he's into Pisang and all of this, and like, but I think it was more so about like him giving up Pear.
Yeah, I would agree. The way that they told this story was really good because it could have been confusing with kind of all the jumps back and forth. But I thought they did a great job with kind of each timeline and how each timeline had a different iteration of Pisang or of Gawi ending up in a situation with Pisang being the person that he had to interact with, and that Per Mai was just a side character.
Yeah.
She was never the main character in his story. As much as he wanted to make her that, she was never going to be that, and him trying to force that affected her life in negative ways.
Right.
And so that was, it was an interesting way that they told this story. And yes,
but he did get to like keep her in his life,
Yes.
right? They be like they're friends, they stay lifelong friends, and so like he did get her, just not in the way he thought he wanted to get her.
He had to come to terms with it on his own. Like nobody else. Like she didn't pursue other things. Like she very much showed interest in him.
She did, yeah,
at some point, and they even dated in one of the timelines, and it still didn't really work out for him. It was like, didn't in that timeline he had gay rumors? Like he was a famous singer, and then he had gay rumors, even though he was like engaged, I think, to Per Mai.
Yeah,
and it was a whole thing. But yeah, the way they told this story was very, very interesting.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I potentially, this is a hot take, unclear. I'm so like. Around, I would say maybe like episode 9, they started featuring more of like Per Mai's story out, like separate from Gawi, right? Like her life and the stuff she's going through.
Too much drama.
You didn't really know too much about her, and it was, I would think it was around like 8 or 9, maybe 9, where they start like really like you learn more about her story and like her mom and all of that starts coming up. I was so annoyed. I was like, I don't care. I really don't care. And like, she's being so dramatic about all of it. And I'm like, bro, Gawi's dad is dead? Like, I was like, what the hell, dude? Like, your problems are not that big. Like, oh, like, everybody's problems are valid. Everybody's feelings are valid. But I was just like, why are we wasting screen time on this? Maybe this is a hot take, but I was not Per Mai's biggest fan.
Yeah. Also, we've been getting a lot of like scenes with just parents chit-chatting lately, and I don't love it. It never goes well. Like that moment where they're chit-chatting about their kids, I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah, I was like, what? Why? No, thank you. Like, I was just so over Per Mai at some point, around like probably like 10-ish. I was like, I'm done with her. Get her out of here. I've had it.
Going back to what you were talking about with Gawi figuring out who he was, and you also see a little bit of Pisang. Even though Pisang very early on knew that he liked Gawi, he also had a little bit of struggle figuring out that he liked a boy and like how that looked. And so it was cute, the introduction of Max, which was him playing the gay guide for both of these boys in very different ways. I loved it because he was like, you know, he was in the gay club, and you have that scene where Gawi comes in, Pisang comes into the gay club, and he's like, okay, I like a boy. I must be here. I must figure this out.
Right. He's like, I need to join my people. Like, it's really cute, actually.
So cute.
It's very cute.
And then like sees him Max sees him, and he's like, are you sure? You sure you're supposed to be here?
Yeah.
And he's like, let me take you. And I loved that moment. And the same thing with he plays that guide for Gawi when Pisang and Gawi have decided to be boyfriends, and he's trying to figure out how he's gonna sleep with him.
Right. Oh yes, he's trying to figure out like how he's going to have sex with him. Right. He's like, because they have these moments where he's like, okay, I like you, I want to be with you, but I'm not ready to have sex with you, and I don't know why. And he's like, I don't know how to do this. And he's like really trying to come to terms with it. And he like, and I thought it was a really interesting conversation where he goes to Max and he's like, can I be in a relationship and not have sex? Like, am I being unfair? Like, is this something I can do? Which I thought was at first I was like, are we gonna have an ace couple? Which I thought would have been so cool. Like, that isn't what ended up happening. But at first I thought that's where they were going with it, and I was like, oh, this is really cool.
It was just
representation.
cool to have that conversation, even if it didn't happen.
Right, where he was like, can I be in this relationship if I don't want to have sex with him? And then it like when they get down to it, it's like, no, he does want to be with him. He just doesn't like. He's just kind of like nervous.
I did love that moment where Gawi calls Pisang's mom.
Yeah.
And he's
because
like,
he said, I have to come sleep at your house because I got in a fight with my mom and it was about you. And so like, I need to come sleep with you. Like, I need to like spend the night at your house because I can't stay at home.
And Gawi feels guilty.
He's so guilty. He's so upset. He's like, okay, I'm going to take the trash out. And he like calls his mom and he's like, I know you're disappointed. I know this isn't how you saw your son's life going, but I promise, just give me a chance. Like all this stuff. And she's like, bro, it's fine. Like,
he's
I'm
like,
not.
She's
She's
like, he wants to bang you, bro.
I'm not concerned about this. And he goes back in the house, and Pisang is like, well, like, I didn't lie. We did get in a fight, but like, we also made up. Like, honestly, high-key funny.
It's funny. These two actors were so interesting to watch in contrast to each other, and just like them portraying these roles. I thought this character was excellent for Krist.
Yes, but big baby girl energy. That was overwhelmingly what I saw on Twitter.
Yes.
Everybody was like living for baby girl Krist.
So cute and funny. And like, I honestly will say, I feel like this is so true to who Krist is in real life. Like,
Krist has baby girl energy in real life. Yeah. So like, a little behind the scenes story of our interview, like they walk in, like, so we set up, we're whatever, and then we like
we're
let
waiting in
the
the
people
room
at GMMTV know, like, okay, like, we're set up, we're good to go, like, we actually need them in here so we can check the cameras and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And they come in, and the minute they walk in, I was closest to the door because I had been like messing with a camera that was that was like near the door, and so like they walk in, and I had the interaction with them first.
Yeah.
And from the moment, like, you could tell he was so nervous, this poor boy, but he was like happy, like peppy, but like excited,
so
nervous.
peppy. I remember
he was
him
like
being
he was then nervous.
He was very bouncy.
Yeah,
because Gawin, and Krist and Gawin talked about this in the interview. Gawin is very chill. He's very like the cold water, where Krist is very hot water, and he's very like,
he's like peppy.
He's got the energy, and so they very much are these characters.
Yeah, and at one point we're like sitting there, and they're we're like messing with my whatever, doing things, and Mark and I said something to Mark, and I was like, oh, Mark, are you nervous or something? I can't remember, because I think I noticed Mark was like fidgeting or something. I don't remember. And he was like, yeah, a little bit. And because I mean, it was a high pressure situation. Like, we have interviewed GMMTV artists before, but this was a very very different.
When the building was crazy.
The building was on lockdown because of Love Out Loud was happening. So it was wild. But Mark was like, yeah, like a little bit nervous. And Mark was like, Mark asked me if I was nervous. This is what happened. Mark asked me if I was nervous first, I think, because I'm remembering back to the footage, because we edited this because it's all recorded.
Yeah.
And I always tend to have this like approach of like you can't show fear, like don't show them you're shaken, right? Like, don't show them they've shaken you. You can't show fear. That's when they get you. It's like if a bear attacks you, like
okay,
that's
so
how I
Mark asked.
Anyways, Mark asked me if I'm
nervous
nervous.
Staring the
I go, no, Mark, I'm never nervous. Like, very I like
chill.
I'm like big about it, basically. As one of our friends says, I have big energy about it.
Yeah.
And in it's so funny. The footage, like, Gawin is like, the footage is so funny. He's like, this girl. And I go, Mark, are you nervous? Because I'm just talking to Mark. I'm not even looking at them, but the camera got them during this moment. And so I'm like, Mark, are you nervous? And he goes, yeah, a little bit. And then Krist turns and he's like, yeah, me too. Because Krist is right next to me and Mark. Yeah. It's like me, Mark, Krist. And he turns and he's like, yeah, me too. Like, he sees his moment to like get in on the convo.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, me too.
Which makes no sense.
And I was like, don't be nervous. This is going to be so fun. And I like talked to him and he's like, okay. And from that moment, for some reason, he like imprinted, because I was like, it's gonna be okay. I think I said something along the lines of like, I got your back, like, I'll protect you, like something like that. And it's so funny, if you watch the interview, anytime anyone speaks to him, he turns and speaks to me.
Yeah.
Unclear why.
It is such a crazy moment, because so many of our interviews, if we can tell that the artist is nervous, we're like, what? This makes no sense. Like,
I know. I'm like, you're Krist. Like,
you're talking to fans. Like, it doesn't. you are famous. I am not. Like,
Yeah.
but it is the English. It is the international. It's the, you know, the cultural difference of it all. It's a new situation for everybody. And it was a wild
big
moment.
baby girl energy. Like Chris
Yes,
is
Chris is
such
very
big
much-
baby girl energy in
Yes,
real
yes.
life too. Even though he's like fun and peppy and very sure of himself, like he's got
So this-
that sort of like must protect energy.
This character made so much sense for him. So it was fun to see these two boys playing these characters.
for sure.
The other thing that I liked was how they navigated the Pair Mai Not Quan storyline, because you see the power that Pair Mai has in this situation. Actually, Pair Mai as a character, I thought they developed her really well. I didn't care for her story later in the series, but she definitely holds her own, where she doesn't play the like jilted girlfriend. She doesn't play the like evil girl. She doesn't play this character of like, well, I didn't get the boy that I wanted, so I'm going to go after this other boy who likes me, even though I know he's like in a friend with benefits
she's not
with
an
my
evil
best
girl
friend.
by any means.
No, and they developed her really well, and so I loved that Not got nothing. He was like, he was shut down immediately, and I was like, blessed.
Not was the worst, and everything that happened to him, he had coming. Honestly, he didn't even get what he deserved. Like he deserved so much worse. And Quan standing up for herself, I was like, yes, girl. Like that scene where she's at the so it's after he's tried to approach Pear at the bar. This again is later in the series. And Pear's like, no, I would. She's like, I don't see you that way. Like at first she like just tries to tell him the truth. Like, I don't see you that way. And he's like, and this is when he like very rudely is like, but you don't have any other options. The boy you like is with someone else. No. And I was like, first of all, you shouldn't want somebody to be with you because you're their only option. Like that's a weird thing to say and do and be. Yeah. But then she turns and she's like, I would never do that to my friend. She's like, even if I was gonna take you up on my only offer, which by the way, like she's hot, like not her only offer. No.
Not sit down.
Sit down. You're like, she's hot, she's smart, she's nice. Like she's no. So she's like, I would never do that to my friend. I know about Quan, all this stuff, whatever. And he goes to campus to confront Quan for what?
Physically. He puts his hands
on her. Yeah.
How dare.
And they're like in public, like in front of their friends and their classmates, like at the university, like at the like picnic tables.
And she has so much humility for him. She is so nice to him because she's like, you have good qualities, but overall you suck.
Yeah. She's like, I liked you and I don't regret liking you, but like, you're a terrible person. This is over. Like she basically does not stand for his abuse. And I was like, yes, girl. Yes. And like, I did love the moment where you see like everyone else at the campus kind of like stand up like they're going to step in. Yeah. But then like, she's not a damsel that needs to be rescued. Like she rescues herself, which I very much liked. But I did like that everybody there kind of like had her back. Like they were ready to like, if she didn't handle it on her own. Anyways, he's the worst. Whatever. Get out of here. Dead to me.
That character was awful, like the worst character, and it was kind of nice seeing a boy be the evil one.
Yeah.
Props to whoever made this show. They
I know, because the boy's never the evil one. Like even when they set it up like it's gonna be the evil one, like in Tanhan Chanlati, right? Yes. Like Neo's character, you think he's gonna be the evil one.
He's so nice.
He's not evil. A girl ends up being evil.
Yeah, because even Pair Mai, when she threw like a little bit of a temper tantrum when like she realizes she's not gonna get Gawi, and then she goes to Gawi and Pisang and she's like, it's okay that you guys are together. Like I'm okay with this.
Yeah, I don't think it was like a temper tantrum that she was throwing about them being together. I think it was more so that like
she wasn't getting Gawi.
No, I think it was more so that Gawi had like lied to her, basically. I see. It was more so that she like felt silly that she had been kept in the dark. And is how I perceived it.
Right, well, because then she also says like, you're my friend. Right. And I felt bad that you couldn't be honest with me about what was going on. Although I don't feel like he could have been honest with himself.
I know. He
was just going through something.
He was just going through something in like 5 different timelines. He was going through so many things all at the same time.
It's so true. But let's talk about the final episode before we end this. The drama of the plot twist where
my God, he's dying. He gets pneumonia and he's gonna die. And then like I did have a feeling that earlier, like P-Sang twists the ball and nothing happens.
Yes.
But in that moment, I remember thinking, ooh, did something happen?
Right.
Like, I do remember
Yes.
thinking that. And it turns out something did happen. And he's like, honestly, in my brain, I was like, this is so dramatic. But when he goes back and Gawi's like, don't change anything. I'm happy to die of pneumonia for this moment.
Conversation
At a theme park.
And yeah, it's like you're the whole time you're like, y'all, we just went through COVID. Just wear a mask.
Well,
just quarantine.
And
just don't
we're like, I was like, it's not that hard now that you know when
Take
when
some
you
extra
get the
vitamin C.
cold, when you get the flu,
Don't let him.
don't go take care of him. You go in the bedroom and you stay in the bedroom, and Gawi stays in the other room, and then like you're fine. Like we know
Also-
how to handle this. I don't.
He's not dead yet. Like he's just on a ventilator. Like it's not.
I mean, that is pretty life threatening.
Sure. But it was just such a so.
But I was mostly like.
Leave it to the
dumbfounded
gays.
where they're like, there's nothing we can do about this. I would change nothing. I would gladly die for you. And all he like did for him was like give him a tepid sponge bath. And like bro, just don't go in the room now that you know this is gonna happen. You know, when he tries to come take care of you, you'll be like, get out of here. Like it's literally that simple. I was like so confused.
Incredible. We did get our marriage equality conversation in the form of he has no other family members. I should be the one making decisions for him. I'm his live-in boyfriend. Why can't I do this for him?
Yeah.
I love those like PSA moments.
Well, and it's such like a tangible way to show the effects of the inequality.
Yeah. But the drama,
and then it turned like he's fine, he recovers, he's great. Like
now they're gonna get married on the beach.
I remember when we were watching the finale, you were like, "Do you think GMMTV got like 2-for-1 tickets at the theme park?" Because we had just been at the theme park for some other show. What's the other show that the theme park is in?
Oh my god, I don't remember.
There's another show that the same theme park is in.
Oh my gosh, why can't I think of it?
I don't remember
Everyone's
either.
going to the theme park.
What was the show?
Anyways,
yes, everybody's going to the theme park lately.
Ridiculous. Yeah,
I kind of wish I had gone to the theme park now, but I don't do rides,
me
so
neither.
like, yeah.
No, thank you. Also, being outside all day in Thailand, again, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Overall, yeah, this show was a fun watch. It had its moments. It was a journey. It was a journey for the like Krist Gawin of it all.
I liked it. I thought it was fun and fresh, and I was into it. If somebody asked me, should I watch this? I would say yes.
Yeah, I would agree.
What's the question though that we did? Oh, would you rewatch it?
I would not.
Oh, interesting.
I think I'd actually have a different experience rewatching it because, like, again, when you watch things live, it's such a different experience because we were getting ready for Thailand. We were in Thailand at the time. We had so much going on, and I don't think I fully paid attention. Plus, when you binge things, I feel like, again, it gives you like a more complete story.
Yeah, I would rewatch it. I would rewatch it because I feel like this is one of those shows similar to, and I don't know why this is where my brain is going with this because the vibe is so different, Haunting at Hill House. Where like there's probably stuff in the background and people and like comments and kind of like how when like, you know, Gawi twists that ball or P-Sang twists the ball, there's probably like some indication. Like I would totally rewatch it to try and catch the like little moments that I missed the first time around.
Yeah. It was interesting. This has been Let's Talk BL. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow all things Let's Talk BL at Let's Talk BL.